Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our YNR chat for Sunday, July 26th, 2015. What is doesn't erase what was. Goodbye, Avery. I feel like we hardly knew ye. I'm very sad that she's gone. I liked the actress. I liked the character. It was very compelling to me, very sad to me to watch her go around and say her goodbyes to everyone that she connected with in Genoa City. Her poor face still beaten. I mean, she looked like a cracked porcelain doll. I obviously would have liked to have seen Avery go out strong, but that's not what we got. It was a sad goodbye, but it was well written. I will certainly give it that. As much as there was so much controversy over that storyline and what happened and the plot points, I think that a lot of the dialogue we saw with Avery was very thoughtful. The strange thing, this is weird, but I kind of felt like Avery's goodbye with everyone was somehow more impactful than with Phyllis specifically. Like, I really connected in with her saying goodbye to Michael, to Nick, to Dylan, but the goodbye with Phyllis somehow fell flat to me, and I'm realizing that Phyllis as a character is starting to recede into the background for me, which is odd. She's a character that is larger than life, and it's certainly not that she's not getting screen time. I mean, we're seeing Phyllis constantly, but somehow I'm not connecting in the way I once was. I don't know if it's because she had been involved with that fraudulent Marco or what, but I mean, frankly, I never felt the huge connection between Phyllis and Avery as sisters, and that was because they didn't get along for most of their relationship, but it almost seemed forced. Like YNR was trying to force a relationship between Phyllis and Avery there at the last minute, and I wasn't entirely picking up on it. But I did enjoy her saying goodbye to Michael. I thought that was very important and impactful, and I was glad to see that YNR actually squeezed in a goodbye with Nick too. I mean, they haven't really had a whole lot of scenes together over the past couple of months, but I liked that he encouraged her to come back. He was very positive, very upbeat, and really everyone was. Everyone was trying to be supportive of her and understanding, and was telling her that, you know, she's welcome to come back, and it gives me hope that she might actually come back someday. The goodbye with Dylan was also surprisingly understanding and upbeat. I would have expected that to be the tearjerker of all tearjerkers, but it was really less of a goodbye, and it seemed like more of a see you later. I mean, the words that they were saying was goodbye, and in fact she said, I don't know if I'm ever going to see you again, but he really tried to pick up the conversation, pick up the beat of the conversation, and let her know that he's certainly still there for her, still loves her, and is wanting to see her again. So that's it. There you have it. Avery's exit. Very controversial. I certainly am going to miss Jessica Collins, and I couldn't help thinking that as Avery was tying up her loose ends with each person that she kind of had relationships with, there was something that made me think. I felt like Avery's tears and emotions and everything she was giving and all of the goodbyes were really Jessica Collins's tears and emotions and goodbyes to the cast that she seemed to get along so well with. Victor is released from prison, big surprise, and the second he gets out of jail, all of Nikki's big talk about leaving Victor just gets thrown right out the window. I mean, the woman was ready to push the eject button on their relationship before he got arrested. And then all of a sudden, he gets out of prison and she's compelled, oh, I'm sorry I ever doubted you, Victor. I mean, she came back from rehab convinced that he was a toxic element in her life. That's why she didn't move back to the ranch. I mean, she broke off that relationship before the whole drama with him getting arrested ever even happened. And now he went to jail, got out, and all's forgiven? She does not know what she wants. That's what it all boils down to. Nikki really doesn't know what she wants. And there's a part of me that like, Neil is there, okay, in Nikki's life at every single major event, and he's coaching her and being friendly to her, and I appreciate Nikki and Neil's friendship, but I'm kind of tired of Neil getting all up in Nikki and Victor's relationship. Like, even though he's right, Neil is right. Everything he said about Victor and his influence on Nikki's life is probably completely 100% true, but you gotta let her deal with it. I mean, she comes back from the jail talking Victor's praises to Neil, and he starts kind of, poking and prodding. It doesn't take much to get through the surface of, this shell that she's put around her, and she starts to realize, wait a minute. I mean, Neil even said, well, they found Jack's fingerprints. The reason Victor got released from jail was because they found Jack's fingerprints on that gun that was planted at Gabe's house. And Neil said to her, well, there are plenty of ways the fingerprints could get put on a gun. Then flashback, Nikki remembers seeing those fingerprints that she confronted Victor about, and all of a sudden it's all flooded back, and she's realizing that, oh, wait a minute, Victor could have he could have lied to me again. So she goes to Paul. I mean, Nikki is definitely at a point in her life where she wants to tell the truth. I mean, she did it against Victoria's wishes. Victoria was like, Mom, no, don't go to the cops, but she did it anyway. And I can appreciate that. I like that Nikki's in a place in her life where she is trying to do the right thing. She's trying to stand on her own 2 feet, and she's not necessarily just taking whatever Victor says as his word. And, it's Victor's world, and I just live in it. I mean, I'm glad about that. But at the same time, 2 days later, he's cleared. It was 2 days and 2 episodes after she finds out about the fingerprints. She's mad at him again. 2 days later, he's cleared completely of the charges, and then all of a sudden, she's right back to being on his side. I did appreciate that she's constantly trying to justify being with Victor at the end of the day. She wants a reason to go back to him badly. And anytime he gives her a reason not to is when she rebels against him and breaks up with him for a little while. But there was this awesome scene toward the end of the week. I think it was Friday's show. You guys know that I was screaming hallelujah when Nikki is talking to Neil about how she's realizing that maybe she's using Victor as an excuse for her drinking. Well, I mean, knock me over with a feather. I've been saying for weeks I was sick of Nikki using Victor and her sons as an excuse to hit the bottle, and finally, she starts to say, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just I'm an alcoholic and I'm using all of these situations around me as an excuse to fuel my alcoholism. Yes, exactly. So I was happy to see her come to that conclusion. And then old Neil, sitting over there, bitter old Neil. Don't even get me started on Neil's life, because he got dogged by Hillary and Devon, but Neil's done his fair share of dogging. Neil could be happy right now in his life. Neil's made all the choices along the way that led to where he is, but he's sitting there all bitter all the time trying to talk Nikki back out of it. He's realizing, maybe Nikki's making an excuse to get back to Victor, and he keeps inserting himself into it, which is not even necessarily being a good friend. I mean, there's only so much that you can tell a person, before they have to, again, be responsible for her actions. Don't talk Nikki out of being responsible for her actions. She seems like she's in a good place. Like, Neil is trying his damnedest to reprogram Nikki. Yeah, good luck with that. Let me know how that turns out. Do you know how many men have tried to reprogram Nikki out of Victor's clutches? Only every single man she's ever married or been involved with after Victor, and it never works. They always end up back together. So Neil, you are fighting a losing battle, and you should know that. You should know that by now. Nikki and Victor, their separation is only temporary. Nikki and Victor will get back together, mark my words, and that will be temporary too. after the big blow up between Adam and Chelsea last week, which by the way, so many comments, people just loved that. I mean, Adam's big identity reveal seems like it went over pretty well with the YNR chat crowd. I don't know how it did on the larger YNR fanscape, but you guys seemed to love it as much as I did. But it seemed like toward the end of the week, it was left on a note last week of, what's Chelsea really gonna do? She's decided to continue to help him cover up his real identity, but is she at all thinking about a future with him? Is she at all thinking that they might be able to pick up where they left off and have a relationship someday? Well, beginning of this week, she pretty much squashed that. She said in no uncertain terms, Adam, we have no future. And in fact, I loved, she said a line, I think that was, it hurts too much to love you. And I just got that. I understood immediately where she was the second that line left her lips. She does love Adam. There's no doubt. Chelsea loves Adam, but she's, much like Nikki, trying to fight her way out of those feelings. It hurts too much. And maybe it's, it hurts so much to love him. Maybe it hurts more to try to be with him, because that's kind of an ongoing act. But she is certainly trying to help him, no doubt about it. She's chosen in some ways to kind of throw herself into the line of fire to help him. Gabe has decided he's usurped Newman Enterprises. I mean, as Gabe he has, and Chelsea is realizing exactly how far he was willing to go with all of these lies and all of this treachery, and all of that is getting ready to come down on him. He said, like, hell is getting ready to rain down on Adam Newman. Victor is out of jail now, so I mean, probably the first stop on his victory train was to his office, where he sees Gabriel sitting in the chair enjoying the power, and Victor just, I think the first word that came out of his mouth was, get out of the chair. That was awesome. I loved that line, just get out of the chair. You do not belong there. And he did. He ultimately did. There was no winning after that point. Again, all of these walls are closing in on Adam. I'm so sick of the Jack coma thing. Let's see, Billy and Phyllis were at Jack's bedside early in the week, and through the squeezy hand squeezy system, they were able to determine that Gabe's not really Jack's son. It went squeezy. Gabe's not your son? Squeezy. Just so dumb. That's so freaking stupid. So Phyllis and Billy have deduced this, and they are running around trying to see if they can come up with a plan to prove that. And Billy has the idea of getting a DNA sample to do a real DNA test to prove that Gabe's not Jack's son. And in fact, they're kind of talking with the door, they're in Victor's office talking about this plan. They're in Gabriel's office with the door open talking about this plan to dethrone Gabriel. And Chelsea overhears the whole thing. She immediately calls Adam to warn him. So again, it's not only that it hurts so much to love Adam, it is costly to love Adam. It must be absolutely torturous on her to have to lie, to have to kind of become part of Adam's world in order to help him. She calls him immediately, warns him. She's basically his cohort. She has had to become his cohort. Tells him that they're getting ready to do this DNA test, and you just need to step down. I did appreciate that she was the one that seemed to help Adam realize that he'd been had. She said to him, you need to just give up your position at Newman Enterprises, because obsessing over Victor and obsessing over this company will cost you everything, including your son. And she said too, you need to stop making the same decisions that led you to your quote-unquote death. I mean, it's all of that all that negative, I don't know, decisions that he's made has led him here, and she's trying to maybe reform him a little bit. Of course, we want Adam to be a little bit on the bad boy side, but I like that she was trying to warn him. He heeded her warning, and he decided to say in front of Billy and Phyllis and everybody that he was going to step down from Newman Enterprises. So Gabe/Adam is officially out at Newman Abbott. I guess I still call it Newman Enterprises because it seems to be in the Newman building most of the time, because they were in Victor's office, I suppose. Well, right, so the lab is at Ewww though still, so it's two different sets, but one company. I'm ready for that to be done, but I'll talk about that later. But, I mean, the net of this whole thing is that Victor is back in his chair. I'm so glad that car wreck thing that happened with Abby did not turn into the guy preying on her or something that had potential to be really bad. But basically, after closing that deal, Abby got in the car with the dude, and they wrecked the car. And in fact, the guy said coming out of the emergency room that Abby was coming onto him in the car, and it caused him to swerve and wreck the car. Do you guys think that's true? Because it didn't really get picked up on afterwards. I mean, I don't think so. I kind of thought maybe he's lying. Maybe he was coming onto her and she smacked him. But she didn't seem to address what happened in the car, which was kind of annoying to me. But again, all of this, I think, is just a plot device to get Ashley and Stitch together. It's kind of transparent. I mean, it was the same thing with her brain tumor. Obviously, YNR is just coming up with excuses for those two to be in the room together, because Ashley and Stitch, of course, are at the hospital already for Jack, and when Abby's brought in, and they're all concerned about her, of course. But Stitch had this moment. His girlfriend's in a hospital bed, and he had this moment of deciding he needed to unburden himself and tell Ashley that he has feelings for her. So the secret is out. A couple of weeks ago at that gala, months ago probably now, Ashley admitted she had just feelings for Stitch. Now Stitch is admitting he has feelings for Ashley. Here's my stance on this whole thing, because we are entering into a mother-daughter guy triangle, and it's controversial, and maybe it could be fun and spark some conversation, and those are the storylines I like. I like storylines that get you to kind of talk. I don't want to be bored, and I do this for an hour a week. I want some spice. So on some level, I think that could be okay, but just like from an Allie personal level, here's how I feel. Stitch is a guy. I mean, he likes them both. I get that. That makes sense. There's nothing wrong with, maybe, I guess there is something wrong, but I get it. You like them both, okay? But Ashley is Abby's mother, okay? That's your daughter. I feel like Ashley is going to end up carrying a whole lot of this blame when this whole thing goes down, or when Abby actually finds out that they do have feelings for one another, or unless on the off chance Abby ends up kind of stepping back and deciding to let them be together. But no matter what, why would you want to be with a guy who slept with your daughter? Gross. Ashley should be unequivocally opposed to this whole relationship. It shouldn't even be entering into her mind as an idea. They had a follow-up scene in the park later in the week where they almost like kissed, or they seem to have a moment or something. And I like the idea of Ashley and Stitch together. I like right from the beginning they had the chemistry, but YNR decided to divert it and get him all involved with Abby, and maybe to create this triangle, I don't know. But Abby is your daughter. You had your chance with Stitch. It didn't work out. He's with her now. And for the most part, I think Ashley has been kind of trying to like suppress her feelings for Stitch, but maybe it's just starting to come out now. And you know what I said earlier was, why would you want to sleep with a man who's been with your daughter? But also, as a daughter, why would you want to sleep with a man who's had sex with your mother? Of course, did she not know about that until after they were together? I'm not sure, but it's gross. It is so nasty, and Ashley should know better. Ashley should be better. I'm gonna probably enjoy the storyline, but I'm gonna be mad at her a little bit. Although she did look damn good in that like white dress, that short little white dress with that multi-length rose gold necklace. She looked beautiful this week. I just wish I could shrink Eileen Davidson down and put her in a jar and like keep her on my desk. I just like her. And I did appreciate her advice to Abby in the week, because what we're seeing is Abby becoming so much more consumed with her business life and her new title as COO that she's shucking aside her relationships, romantic and personal and anything. She's shucking everything else aside. And we're seeing Ashley maybe realizing that she did that, that she's watching Abby head down this path that didn't work out so well for her. And in fact, Ashley said to her, don't get so consumed, or don't let life pass you by and then realize that you also let love pass you by while you were at it. And so that kind of also explains where Ashley's head is a little bit. But there's other guys, Ashley Abbott. You do not need your daughter's boyfriend. Ew. Well, when Victor gets back, he actually applauds Abby for what she's done with that deal that she made. Or, he didn't overly sing her praises, but we saw earlier in the week Billy, and I don't know, somebody else, I can't remember, was maybe Victoria. They were really down on her for this deal that she made, and it wasn't good enough. And here we see Victor, now that he's back in power, telling Abby that it is good enough. Congratulations, and in fact, I'm gonna leave you in that COO position. Ooh, Victoria must have broken a tooth, gnashing him so hard. Victoria found out about that. She was like, what? I've only worked my entire life at this company and you just handed it over? You handed my title over to Abby. I mean, you handed my title over to a stranger, Gabriel, a month or two ago, and now you're handing it over to Abby? And I did like that Victor said, all of my children deserve a chance to flourish at my company, so I want to give her this opportunity. But Victoria countered by saying, but we didn't start at the top. We worked our way to the top and we learned. And I do agree. I think it's way too soon to be throwing Abby into this position because A, she's probably not qualified. She's doing an okay job, and yeah, you got to learn, but that's a major, major position that you don't just throw someone into, which makes me wonder if Victor has some kind of ulterior motive. I don't know. But not only that, but it could be getting her into some level of danger and cause. And, she's getting sucked into the whole Newman Abbott thing too. I mean, she kind of enjoyed her life. She was a free spirit a little bit, or definitely. And now she's getting sucked into this corporate atmosphere, and it's probably is going to ruin her life. It's clearly going to ruin her love life. And I feel a little bit bad for her. I kind of did enjoy seeing Victoria get jabbed a little bit, though. She always seems to win, or she always seems to be the smartest woman in the room, and it was a little bit nice to see somebody stick it to her a little bit. But I mean, Victoria's position was Abby, I love you, you're my sister, but you stole my title. You stole my man. And pretty much the same thing is probably going to happen to you. And just like that, Jack opens his eyes and turns back on like a light bulb. I mean, it was like boom, bing, I'm awake now. I don't remember if it was toward the end of last week's shows or if it was at the beginning of this week, but the man has some kind of fit. And, the little monitor's going all crazy, and it seemed, oh no, is Jack gonna die? And then the next thing you know, he doesn't have the face mask on that he has had on for the past couple weeks, and I thought, oh, he's gonna talk or say something. That face mask is magically removed now. But all of a sudden, after having had this intense episode, he just opens his eyes right up and speaks completely perfectly to Stitch only. So that made me think, wait a minute. How long has Jack been faking? Maybe you guys have theories about this. He did sort of explain later in the week that he went through levels of being conscious, but how do you go out of a coma? You're in a coma and you just pop back up like a light bulb, and your speech, like your first words that you've let out of your mouth, are completely perfect and in fact well timed. I can't remember what it was he said, but when he came out of his coma, he said something very suave and very Jack-like. And I was like, well, hey, have you been planning that line or what? Whatever. I'm glad that Jack is back and alert. I was tired of the stupid coma. And the fact that he at first decided not to tell his family that he was alert and able to speak made me think, oh no, how long are they going to drag this out? But he explained to Stitch that he doesn't want anybody to know because it would put his family in danger. I mean, the man has just been shot. So instead of having the joyous, I'm awake moment, he decides to ask Stitch help him do a little favor by calling Victor and asking Victor to come into the hospital, which Victor does. It was kind of awesome. I have to say that was probably my favorite moment of the week. Victor walks into Jack's hospital room and says, and he's just learned, by the way, that he shot the real Jack. I'll talk about it next, but Marissa tells him everything about what happened. So he realizes that, oh, I didn't shoot Marco. I actually shot the real Jack. So he walks into the room for the first time knowing that and says, Jack, is it really you? And Jack just pops his eyes open and says, you bet your ass it is. That was pretty good. It was good. Way to go, Peter Bergman, because he's just delivered through, even through all of the crappy storyline and on the island and on the boat and even in a coma, the man delivered. The storyline was a thumbs down, but the performance was a big thumbs up. And I think that was a cliffhanger, I want to say, on maybe Wednesday's episode or something. And I realized I had a moment, I watched the episode and I went to bed and I started thinking about it. And I became completely convinced that Jack was going to tell Victor, like maybe blackmail him and tell Victor that he would cover for him and not let the truth get out about any of this stuff in exchange for Victor helping him get his company back and his life back and all of that. And instead, well, and by the way, just to say, just on a side note, I would like to see these companies break apart. Maybe that's why I was thinking of it that way. I appreciated the whole merger twist when it came, but I would really like them to break Newman and Abbott back into two separate companies so that they can keep going at it as rivals. I don't necessarily want to see everybody at the same office all the time. I kind of like that level of isolation. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just me thinking, maybe it's me liking the classic stuff. I don't know. But anyway, I kind of felt like at the point where Jack was alert and had his eyes open and was ready to confront Victor, that Jack had the upper hand. I really thought Jack had the ability here to have Victor by the you-know-whats and really, dig in and demand something. And instead, Victor turned it on Jack really quick. He started saying, look, you don't want the truth to come out about any of this because you were off in, while you were on the island, Kelly didn't just magically die. Somebody killed her and it was probably you. And then you're on that boat, you killed a dozen people when you blew it up. So do you really want that information to get out? And do you really want to have to be extradited back to whatever country he was in and then face trial in a foreign South American country and possibly get the death penalty? Victor, it was almost like he had this did you come up with that whole argument in the car on the way over or what, Victor? Because and it worked. That's the shocking thing about it. And then, Victor, you guys got to help me with this. Victor brought up something to Jack. He goes, well, what you don't know, Jack, is that I realized a couple of months ago, or before this whole switch happened, that my company was under attack by something called the Paragon Project. And then Jack's face got real serious and he said, how did you know about that? And then Victor said, I have my ways and whatever. So that was not at all followed up on. I thought that was so interesting. They tossed that little tidbit out there, and I was like, ooh, tell me about that Paragon project. I want to know. And they didn't follow up on it at all. So is that over? Was that just something that they were tossing into the basket of blackmail of reasons Jack should keep his mouth shut? I don't know. So you guys have to let me know how you feel about that. But I was just surprised that Jack would give in. I mean, maybe it was the fear of not being at home. I mean, Jack fought hard to be at home, and the very idea of having to go back to this South American country is probably would be enough to just internally just kill him. I mean, it was torture on him. So I'm wondering if that's the reason why he caved so quickly. But he does. He agrees with Victor. They both agree to keep the whole thing quiet, but the secret's already out with a few people, including Gabe. But Jack tells Victor that Gabe knows. Doesn't tell him Adam knows. Doesn't reveal the identity, but says Gabriel knows about the two Jacks. So, you know, I was trying really hard to understand Jack's position here, and I think it really is about protecting his family. In the very next scene, he calls the whole family around his bedside. He opens his eyes. He like creates, you know, the element of surprise. And I will say I did tear up just a bit for that first embrace with Phyllis, and then following, he ends up having Gabe / Adam sort of forces his way in the room to talk to Jack, even though now at this point everybody knows that he's not Jack's son. He pretty much admitted that to everyone. So Jack agrees to see Adam and lets it rip. Just lets him know everything that he feels about him. I mean, you left me there draining out my blood, and I mean, I was bleeding on the ground while you were shaking hands with Victor. So it was clear that Jack felt intensely betrayed by Adam, and if he wasn't able to get the upper hand on Victor, he was able to get the upper hand on Adam, and he reveals to him that this is all going to be kept quiet. And by the way, I have absolutely no intention of telling Phyllis about any of this, which, again, on a side note, part of me thinks is best. I mean, Phyllis is off still trying to figure out, I mean, as soon as Jack comes out of his coma, he tells everybody, what he agreed with Victor, that, that nothing, that it was self-defense, or that, yeah, I had the gun. I mean, Jack totally lied and copped to having the gun, and that whatever happened with, Victor didn't maliciously try to shoot him. And so Phyllis is still trying to figure out, how can that be true? Squeezy wouldn't lie to me. Squeezy is a proven method of communicating with a coma patient. So Phyllis is like trying to be onto this, and there's a part of me that kind of thinks I'd rather her not find out about it. Is it wrong? Is that wrong of me? That I just think sleeping with this criminal guy, that would make her feel horrible on so many levels. She was basically getting assaulted, basically getting raped by this gross criminal dupe mastermind guy. And not only that, but I think it would make Phyllis feel so horrible, and everybody would feel so horrible, but especially Phyllis, of not knowing that it was him. There would be all kinds of guilt involved with that. So just, by the way, you tell me, maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of don't want her to find out. It's too much, but I'm sure that they surely will have to blow that up. But Jack is going to do everything he can do to try to keep that a secret for as long as he can, to bide his time. And he straight up tells Adam, you tell anyone the truth about Marco and the shooting and anything, and I will tell the whole world that you are Adam Newman. I mean, think about it. You don't really want the secret to get out either. If you go along with if you tell everybody the truth or about Marco, they're gonna haul you in. You're gonna get fingerprinted. They're gonna find out that you're Adam anyway. So keep your mouth shut about this. But which Adam is appalled that Jack would let Victor win, that Victor just walks away and gets away with all of this, the whole dupe. But Jack seems to have one more card up his sleeve. He says, to make no mistake, Victor Newman is going down. He just won't see it coming this time. Whew. I don't know what Jack's plan is. I know that Gabe landed himself into some hot water over his police statement, because Gabe is kind of stuck in the middle of this now. I mean, he's the one that told everybody that he saw the shooting, that Victor did it, and now all of a sudden the victim is contradicting that. So he gets hauled down to the station, and Chris and Paul put the screws to him pretty hard. So we might be finding that his identity gets blown up in front of everybody because of this anyway, if Paul could get a clue. That boy Noah is such a puppy dog. Marissa's not feeling well, so not only does he bring her chicken soup, but she has a little bit of a dribble on her mouth of the chicken soup, and surely Marissa can't wipe her own mouth of the chicken soup dribble. So he takes a little napkin. Let me get that from you. Let me get your dribble from your lips. So stupid. Have you ever in your life had, even at the most romantic moment in your life, have you ever had somebody wipe food off your face, and would you not just be horrified? Like, no thanks, maybe just give me a little signal that I got something there. I'll take care of my face food myself. I'm telling you, Noah Newman is exactly like his dad. He is already head over heels in love with this woman that he just met. I don't care. I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it. I think they're going to be a sensational couple if we get there. Although, kind of weird. Victor pays a visit to Marissa. I wish I would have talked about this before I talked about the Jack stuff, but he ends up, I think Victor knows that she's involved with Noah, because he gets some kind of secret phone call, because, he's way connected with any police, or who knows, Victor knows everything, and he gets a phone call and seems to kind of take a note. He kind of did a when he gets this phone call, and then shows up at Marissa's place strategically right after, or conveniently right after Noah left. So I kind of think maybe Victor knows of her involvement with Noah, but he shows up and they're alone together, and that's when she tells him the whole story of Jack, that he shot the real Jack, and that the real Marco, is at the bottom of the lake. So she really told him pretty much everything about the story. I guess I kind of wanted to zero in on this moment, because Marissa starts talking about her life and why she would be involved with Marco in the first place, that she was attracted to his power, and that she's someone who came from nothing. And she begins to tell Victor about her childhood and the fact that she was an orphan, that she grew up in and around an orphanage, and looks at him and says, you couldn't possibly understand, a man of power and wealth, you couldn't possibly understand what it was like to grow up in an orphanage. And Victor just kind of took that tidbit and he tucked it away. I mean, Victor could have corrected her, and it didn't happen. And I loved that moment, because I think at the very essence, the very absolute core of everything Victor Newman does it stems from that. It stems from the fact that he was left in an orphanage, and I think he was left in an orphanage at an age of reason. Like, I don't get the impression that he was a baby left on the doorstep. From my kind of understanding of the mythology of Victor Newman, he was a young man. He was a little boy. And can you imagine? Maybe you can, but I can't imagine what it must feel like to be that old and to have, your life, and maybe you have a sense of your parents struggling, maybe not. Kids don't always necessarily know. But the fact that the mother took him and dropped him off, like one day little Victor's life is normal, and the next day his mother abandons him, that would mess you up. And I feel that everything Victor Newman does, it's all a satellite around that moment in his life. That is the reason why he hates Jack Abbott. Victor Newman hates Jack Abbott because Jack Abbott has everything that Victor always wanted, and he's worked his entire life to try to get and can't seem to get a handle on. Victor came from nothing, built his company from the ground up, built his life from the ground up, built his finances from the ground up, and Jack Abbott always had it. Jack came from a wealthy family, and not only did he come from wealth, but he came from a tight-knit family. Jack and Ashley and Tracy, they're all really close. They have this father this great father that they looked up to. You know who didn't have that? Victor Newman didn't even have a father. And that's why Victor tries so hard to keep his family so tight. And every single point along the way, he tries to make the wrong decisions to keep his family tight. Like, he doesn't know what it's like to have a functional, he doesn't know what it's like to have a functional father. So how can he be a functional father? That is why he hates Jack. That is why he has problems with women, too. The fact that he was abandoned by his mother. This is the Victor Newman Psychology Hour. But it's true. I dare you to tell me it's not true. So I love that they brought that up. I always think of that as a moment. I think it certainly does explain a lot. And there was this crazy part in the back of my head that thought, oh, YNR, are you going to try to work, you know, since the fact that Victor and Marissa have that in common, please tell me you're not going to work on like a Victor, Marissa, Noah triangle. Can you imagine Victor and Noah fighting over Marissa? That'd be kind of sick and sad, but maybe a little interesting. No worse than Ashley and Abby. Oh my goodness. Shoot. So after Victor leaves, he just sort of leaves Marissa, kind of doesn't really say much to her, doesn't seem to take anything other than the information. But I feel like we're going to pick up on that seed a little later, or that was a seed that was planted. Noah ends up going back to the club after he visits her, after he wiped her mouth of the chicken soup, goes back to the club where Kevin and Mariah have decided to perform, well actually it was Mariah, decided to perform a background check on Marissa. They wanted to check her story, and they find out that she hasn't been entirely honest. She said she was distantly connected to Marco, but didn't say she was actually with him. And they have proof, they have news articles and all this stuff that proves it, and they give this information to Noah, and Noah has now realized that he is starting already to fall in love with a woman who has lied to him. But is that going to stop him? No. He takes that information, he goes right to Marissa, he confronts her, and she does a wonderful job of explaining why she lied to him. I mean, again, whether she's a good character or a bad character, she certainly did make a compelling argument to him for not going and telling everybody about this, because the thing is, during the confrontation, not only does Noah have to realize that she lied to him about that, but she volunteered that it was probably Marco who kind of killed his fiance and that other dude. Just on a side note, I guess I was totally wrong that Courtney and Austin were not dead. I was convinced. I mean, flashback to February, I was like, doesn't matter, they're both alive, none of this matters. I mean, the guy had just signed a contract, the Austin character just signed a contract. I'm shocked that they didn't end up making Austin and Courtney still alive. I suppose the door's open a little bit still, but I guess I'm finally able to accept that Noah and Courtney are dead, and then I guess Marco killed them. I guess it makes sense. And I just want to be done with it, in fact, so I don't even care. After Marissa tells this to Noah, and and she also explains to him that if the word were to get out about her connection to Marco, all of the bad guys would come and they would find her, and it would put her life in danger. So Noah is going to protect, just like his dad, going to protect the woman that lied to him, and he goes off to Kevin and Mariah, who are itching to go to the police, itching to pursue this. They still want to find out who killed their friends and was torturing or was cat and mousing them the whole time. And Noah argues to both of them to just drop it. We don't want to put Marissa in any danger, and they, on the surface, agree to just drop it and not pursue to look for Marco. I mean, he tells them they're at the bottom of Marco's at the bottom of the lake, so whatever, he's dead. The person who killed Courtney and Austin's dead. We don't want to ruin Marissa's life. Let's all just move on. He on the surface convinces everybody to go with that story. Then he goes back to Marissa's hotel room to get his thank you reward. She gives him a little smoochy, and in fact, they get a little carried away with it for a while and almost end up on the bed. Oh, Noah Boy, his eyes were wide. I mean, if you go back and look at how the actor was doing it, it was almost like he's never had sex before. Almost like no woman's ever shown any interest in him before. His eyes are so wide looking at Marissa like, I mean, he's completely, like, she's the most beautiful and intriguing woman he's ever seen. His little mind is practically blown and he can't get over it. I'm telling you, just like his dad, this kid has one brain and it ain't in his head. Oh man, that apple did not fall far from that tree. But I don't think this is at all the end of this part of the story, because Kevin and Mariah are not going to let it rest. In fact, we know from the previews of next week's show that they decide to take a little trip out to that lake. And they decide to look and see if they can find any evidence to support Marissa's story that Marco's at the bottom of that lake. And I got a feeling that we're going to find out that they went for their little swim, found the car, and found no body. Well, baby daddy found out that he's not necessarily the baby daddy this week. Oh boy, Sage gets her DNA test results, and instead of reading them right away, she leaves them tucked away under the bar for Nick to come in and find. I mean, he sees where it's from, grabs the envelope, goes and sits down, opens it up, reads the results, and then Sage comes in, realizes what's happened, and he grills her. I mean, why? Why would you not just tell me the truth? Yeah, and she tries to explain it away. I only slept with Gabe once, and in my heart, in my mind, it was always, the baby was always yours. And he says, well, if you always felt that, then why'd you need the DNA test? So, I mean, he really grills her hard about why on earth she would have to lie to him about this, because it would have been better for the relationship if she just would have been a little honest. Nick probably would have stood by her a little bit more if she just would have been honest from the beginning. I mean, I think what we're seeing is a similar parallel as to Noah and Marissa. I think it's a very similar relationship. Those Newman men are going to let the woman just lie, and they're always going to end up forgiving and protecting. And I did, although, like her counter argument that please don't get too judgy on me about these paternity test results, because you hid paternity test results because you wanted Summer to be yours. Ooh, because I didn't even pick up on that. That never would have crossed my mind. So I love that she got him back on that one. But boy, those scenes were long, right? I mean, it was pretty much, I don't know if it was just me and my own anticipation because I wanted to know, but all of those scenes on Friday, I wanted to, if I had fast forward, I just would want to fast forward it. I mean, it seemed like they were dragging it out. I mean, the whole time Nick and Sage are having that conversation at the table, and the paternity test results are right there on the table. And she's asking them, she says, can I see the results? She had to ask him like twice, can I see the results? And I was like, just give it to her. Give her the results and read them out loud. And even when he did give her the results, he just handed them over and then left. And then we just saw this scene of her kind of crying. And I'm like, I don't know what to think about any of this. It's killing me, dragging it out. Sage should have ripped that envelope open the moment that she got it. And then as soon as she read the results, just devoured it. Just ate it right down. Swallowed it. Gulp. I mean, for crying out loud, it turns out as soon as Nick leaves the bar, he leaves, he sees Gabe sitting there, and he confronts him, and he says, you stay away from Sage, because what you don't know is she had a paternity test, and the baby's mine. So if that's true, if those paternity test results said Nick was the father, dang, Sage, you could just read that. You could have read it, you could have hid that, burned it, eaten it, exploded it, hid it somewhere. I don't know. He never had to know. You hesitated, Sage. And now it probably drove a wedge in your relationship. You may be raising this child together, but that doesn't mean you're going to end up together. But I'm telling you, I'm wondering if there's any chance that Nick was lying. I don't know why. I mean, Nick probably wouldn't make that mistake twice, but there was a part of me that thought, is he telling Gabe the truth? Because he could very well hate Gabe so much, thinking that he would be a bad influence on the child, that Nick would decide to just say the results were that he was the father, and then run back to Sage and say, look, I don't want him near your baby and you either. Let's just say the baby's mine. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I'm so totally looking forward to next week because Chelsea finds out. Chelsea finds out. I don't know if Nick maybe tells her on the way out the door or what, but she finds out that he was even possibly a candidate for the father of Sage's baby, and she rips into him like, so on top of all the other things you were doing, you had time to have sex with her? Oh, it's so good. I'm so into this right now. It's like every single one of Adam's lies is blowing up in his face at the same time, and I'm loving every minute of it. Let's read some YNR chatter comments, shall we? Here's one from BXGirlHS on YouTube. This, I think, perfectly summarizes Adam's character. Adam is his father's son. He is cocky and arrogant with a big chip on his shoulder. At his core, he seeks power and he is selfish, but he has these moments of clarity where he shows that he has a heart, and that's why I root for him. I believe his love for Chelsea is real, and their relationship is one of the most compelling parts of YNR. I think that's such a well said, well-rounded kind of assessment of Adam. And I think, as I was talking earlier about everything kind of going back for Victor's character to him being an orphan, I think there is some of that similarity with Adam. Adam is someone who grew up, thinking he had this wonderful father figure, only to find out that his father was actually someone who may have had all the money in the world, but is a horrible parent and probably a horrible person. So it seemed almost like, if I had to guess, probably Adam's character started turning bad as he got to know who his real father was. And I think you can see that Adam is constantly trying to overcompensate for that, because we see Adam also making excuses for doing what he's doing in order to help Connor, and they're not necessarily good decisions. So it's like not only that Adam is his father's son, he almost is Victor. I mean, it's crazy how much they have in common, and that's the reason why they just can't seem to get along. Anna had left me a voicemail early in the week, or toward the end of last week, about Adam's reasons for putting Abby in that COO role. And Anna was saying that she feels like Adam didn't put Abby in that role to see her flop, as Allie had argued. He did it to stop the Newmans from forming an alliance. Abby was the least of all evils. And also, I should have read this one next. Connor left me a voice message that says, I am seeing similarities between Victor and Nikki and Adam and Chelsea's relationship. Adam is Victor's son, and Chelsea's running back to him the same way that Nikki does. It's so true. It's absolutely true. And by the way, safe travels, Connor. He's gonna take a trip with his family to Barcelona. That's so cool. Except it's like when you go away on vacation, you wonder, I'm gonna have like 2 weeks of YNR to catch up on. Just don't forget to catch up on your YNR chat. Rocks Grace on YouTube says, my reaction to Sage was completely the opposite of yours, but really that's one of the fun things about sharing and talking about a TV show with fellow viewers, how completely differently we can react to the same scene. I thought that Sage came off as phony, and this is, by the way, is in relation to last week. She had crocodile tears, showing no real remorse. Of course, I don't like the character, so my impressions are tainted by that. Yeah, I like hearing from people who feel opposite from the way that I do too, and that is kind of one of the cool things about YNR chat. Noira M on YouTube makes a really good comment. What the hell happened to Sage's character? She was that fiery brunette that became this whiny, needy blonde in a matter of weeks. It's so true. I did notice she went blonde, and the character definitely became less fierce. This comment made me laugh. Lot Fally left a comment at yrchat.com that says, it's worth noting that Jack's 2 means yes, 1 means no technique of communication was first perfected years ago by Mr. Ed. I love that. January on YouTube says, so I guess, no, this was on Facebook. January was on Facebook. So I guess we'll never know if Phyllis or Kelly was the crazy one. I mean, we know Kelly was crazy, but did she poison herself? I feel the same way. I feel like the whole Kelly thing is left wide open, and I didn't even think about that. The fact that we're still kind of wondering what happened with the Kelly versus Phyllis. Are they ever going to pick that back up? Because I feel like I'd be more interested in Phyllis to learn that maybe she did poison Kelly. But yeah, they just left that loose end. Daisy on Facebook also left another, like, second week in a row, great comment about Marissa. Marissa said this week that she didn't tell anyone about Marco because she was afraid his people would find her and kill her. Why, Marissa? Why stay at a place where Marco was at all? Why not leave? Maybe Marissa has nowhere to go because she's the person who put Marco in jail. Marissa could have been his partner as well as his girlfriend. After all, what was she doing on the ship? I think she was in deep with the criminal activity at that point, and Jack was her ticket out. This nice girl act, I don't buy it. I think she's a lot more clever and not so fearful of anyone, let alone Marco's people. I like this actress, Sophia Prentice, so I hope her character stays around. Yes, I kind of would be okay with a dark Marissa, with a dark twist. Because after she was smooching on Noah and he left and she stopped it and he left the room, I was watching her face because there was a part of me that thought, was she really into it, or is she playing him? Gary left me a voicemail earlier this week saying, how many people out there want to see Avery come back? I'd like to see a show of hands. Well, I'm raising my hand, and I wanted to throw that out to the YNR chatters too. So now that everything is said and done, I know a lot of other stuff happened this week, so I don't want it to get lost. How did you feel about Avery's exit, and would you be open to seeing her come back onto the show? Leave me a comment and let me know. And just a couple extra really nice comments that I saw. Shannon left a message at yrchat.com that said, hi, Allie. I started watching the show around 12 years old, 1993. Me too! Me too! We're the same age, too. Shannon started watching with her mom as a daily ritual before she went to work. I've continued watching on my own ever since, still keeping in contact with my mom about the show. I live with my husband and 2 boys who have no interest in it at all, so I'm glad I stumbled onto your YouTube channel. Great job, really enjoy your chats. I've been going through some of your old ones to refresh my memory. It's great. So thank you for your time in doing this. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Shannon. That's an awesome comment. And then I also had one from Zabaza on YouTube that said, Allie, love your chats and look forward to your spin on things. What a great week for YNR. We now have a new YNR fan, my daughter. I got my mom hooked in 82 when Nikki and Paul were in Ian's cult and Paul was with April. Now I've got my 24-year-old daughter hooked on the show. I love that. It's like a family affair, and I bet that the actors and actresses and anybody involved with YNR gets stories like that constantly. I love hearing when people say, I started watching the show with my grandma and then my mom and then me. And that's so cool. It's such a good talking point to discuss things too. It's like not just the story. There's just so much to talk about after the story, which by the way is the reason that I do YNR chat. Okay, you guys, I gotta get going because apparently even on an HD camera, you can't just record 2 hours of video and not have the battery die. So I gotta go before my battery dies. But I hope that you guys do leave me those comments. You can go to yrchat.com. You can leave a comment on the blog there, plus see all the polls and the photos and all that good stuff. Talk with other people. And from there, you can find my Facebook and Twitter page, the YouTube page, the podcast, all of that good stuff. If you want to go to Facebook or Twitter, feel free to leave a public comment or a private comment. I read every single comment that you guys send me. If you want to call the voicemail directly, the phone number is 309-588-4569. I listen to every single voicemail. I love you and I look forward to it. So everybody have a good week. Bye!